Hi, Dan with Sharpening Supplies, and today I have with me Bill Pierce from Wolff Industries, the manufacturer of the Twice As Sharp scissor sharpening system. So, Bill, could you give us an idea, a quick rundown? How would you go about sharpening bevel-edged scissors?
Absolutely. The clamp is adjustable from 0 to 55 degrees, and so the key is that you're going to match the cutting edge angle here. We've done a little bit of testing, used our angle gauge. We know that this edge is at 20 degrees. When I did a little scratch test, you could see right here, I came right on the bevel. So we know that we're matching right there. From there, we put the scissor in the clamp. We want to get a firm grip on it. We don't have to lock this down like a vice grip so that the scissor, is impossible to get out. We don't want the scissor to move, but you don't have to really crank down on it too hard. You also want to come down the blade far enough that you can get the other side open so you can get into the pivot. And so then we have it in the clamp. That's most of the battle right there. That's the key to this being successful. There we turn the machine on. I'm going to use very light pressure here on the left side. This wheel is going to remove metal, and there's not a way to put that metal back on. So very light pressure, pivot to tip. I'm using just enough pressure to keep it in contact with the wheel. Good. Take 3 or 4 passes. I'm going to look at the edge. I can see that I'm grinding a new edge. I'm going to feel for a burr on the inside of the scissor. I'm leaving the scissor in the clamp while I do that. And if I have a burr, that means I have new metal being rolled over. That means I have a new edge.
Sure. So that's kind of your goal once you got to the burr? Okay.
The burr is money.
Okay.
That means I've got a new edge. A bigger burr is not a better burr. Say that 3 times fast. So there's no need to keep sharpening. I have a burr all the way down. Just enough to click my nail on is a new burr.
Good to go. Okay.
Now I'm going to flip the scissor over. I'm going to clamp the other blade in. Now here, as we mentioned, I'm set up at 20 degrees.
Good.
I'm reading here on the upright, on this middle line right here.
Where the two jaws?
Where the two jaws meet. This middle line, 20 degrees. And I am going to check this angle to make sure it's the same on both blades.
Sure, you don't need the machine running.
You don't need to have the machine running. You just need the wheel moving just a little bit. And you can see the scratch test that I've put there to confirm. There are some scissors that have 2 different angles between the blades.
Okay.
Generally, those are knife edge shears. One's going to be very blunt in the 15-20, then the other one's going to be in the 40 to 45 range. Here, I'm going to use the same pressure, making sure I go smoothly pivot to tip. Also recommend going in one direction until you get a little more experienced.
Sure. You
don't want to grind off too much material. I have a burr from pivot to tip. Now we have 2 brand new burrs. Getting them there is important. Removing them or pulling them back is just as important. We don't want to crush 2 burrs into each other.
Okay.
So I'm going to spread these blades slightly while I close and then pinch and pull those burrs apart.
Okay.
Spread to close, pinch to open.
Sure.
You do that 2 or 3 times. You'll notice the spread, it's not, anything huge. It's just letting those burrs get past each other. Kind of envision it like this. You have 2 burrs wrapped over. You don't want to fracture them off.
Okay.
Get them past and pull them up.
Okay.
They're still there, but they're straightened up. Now here's where the machine gets its name, Twice as Sharp. We clamp it back in, pick it up and flip it over. And here's a safety thing. It says hone right.
Okay.
On the upright. So when I'm honing, I'm on the right-hand side of the machine. You'll notice the blade is now down because this is a compressed cotton wheel. Don't ever want to turn a blade up into it.
Sure. You dig in and
it digs in and catches.
Yep.
Now this wheel is much finer, and I'm going to put a little more pressure on, but I'm also going to go both ways, like a continuous violin note. Back and forth, and I'll do that about 6 to 8 times, and then I'll check for a burr.
So we should be getting a burr on the honing wheel as well as
Yes.
the grinding.
It's a finer burr.
Good.
It's created in the exit stroke. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but that blade is polishing out. The grind lines from the grinding wheel are being polished. I have a very fine burr. I want to make sure I get pivot to tip.
Okay.
If I don't have a burr, put it back on and do it 3 or 4 more times. Have a very fine burr. Put it in the clamp, take it out. Now on this side, we sharpened both blades, spread to close, pinch to open to deburr. Here, we honed one blade, created a honing burr in the exit from the wheel. We're just going to cut that burr off.
Just close the scissors.
Just close the scissor gently. If you feel that it really catches hard, if that burr ends up pretty big, you can take a little pressure off. Then you have a decision if you want to hone both blades or not. It would depend on your customer, the material that you're cutting, and things like that. We're going to go ahead and hone the second blade. Put it back in the clamp. I recommend, at least while you're learning, to do all of your clamping while the clamp's in the sharpening side.
Sure.
Over here, so it's up. As you get more experience, you can decide if you want to try to leave it on this side and do that. Pivot to tip, make sure I've covered everything. Again, we'll put a little pressure on it. If you notice that you're starting to blue the tips, you're getting a little burn on the scissors, you need to lighten up your pressure and probably move a little quicker. You're getting them too hot. We're going to cut that burr off. That's a beveled edge scissor.
Wonderful.
That's the basics of it right there.
Pretty straightforward.
You can take scissors that are not cutting, put them through this process. There's a few other things regarding scissors that are helpful to know that get a little deeper into that, making sure there's tension on the pivot.
Sure.
Some people get into aligning set and things like that. Those are a little bit more experienced things, but for the basics, that's the general gist of the machine.
Fantastic.
It is that simple.
All right, well, Bill, thank you very much for coming today and giving us a walkthrough on the Twice As Sharp and the Okami. Hope you learned something from these. If you have any questions, please come and visit us at sharpeningsupplies.com.